While there are certainly stories that have successfully pitted Batman and Joker against one another on more than just a physical level, I don't think it's unfair to say that The Killing Joke is perhaps the most influential of them all. And yet, despite releasing in 1988 and having many of its scenes and themes repurposed across a wealth of Batman media, there has never been a straight adaptation of the source material. Unsurprisingly, fans were overjoyed when it was announced that an adaptation would be coming in 2016, featuring the mind behind the hugely popular Batman animated series Bruce Timm, alongside the hugely popular cast from the show. And then the first trailer came out and everyone's expectations dropped. I think just about everyone shuddered when they first saw the lackluster animation that didn't match the animated series nor quite capture the magic of the comic. Well, the film is out now, I've seen it, and somehow the animation is the least of the film's issues. The Killing Joke is a very short comic, and when they announced that they were going to be adding to it to turn it into a feature-length production, I wasn't all that worried. The comic drops you in on Arkham Asylum with little context, and Barbara is shot only a few pages later. There's plenty of room for growth in the story. Prior to seeing the film, I was picturing a build-up with Batman and Batgirl against the Joker that would lead into the start of the film, something that would contextualize the relationship between these characters that would ultimately add some more cinematic weight to the main events. The adaptation certainly builds some relationships, but perhaps not the ones fans were expecting. The film opens with a 30-minute story about a mob boss's nephew taking over his uncle's business, with the focus almost entirely on Batgirl. On its own, it feels like a fairly mediocre episode of the Batman animated series, but as part of the film, it feels like unnecessary padding. It's almost like the writers forgot the comic was supposed to be about Batman and the Joker being pushed over the edge, rather than Batgirl and her issues with men. It spends a large majority of its time focused on Barbara whining to her gay best friend about how this guy, in this case Batman, won't notice her or give her the respect she deserves. It all comes to a bizarre conclusion when Batman and Batgirl have sex. This isn't really anything new, it's something that was in Batman Beyond 2, but it is entirely out of place in this film. It changes their relationship from that of a father and daughter or master and pupil into something sexual. And when the comic goes out of its way to create a parallel between Batman and Commissioner Gordon, it heads into very disturbing territory. Gordon is put through hell in this story, and yet when his nightmare is over, he still says to Batman, "Do this by the book." Their relationship with Barbara is supposed to be identical, so that when it comes to how they deal with the Joker, it's a reflection of their character rather than any soap opera motivations. It comes across like a really lazy way of trying to tie in their prologue with the rest of the narrative to give Batman an obvious reason for being pushed over the edge. This lack of subtlety is a real issue with the film, and it extends much further than this example. After Joker shoots Barbara, he begins unbuttoning her shirt, which has been a hot point of discussion in the fandom for years. Did he sexually abuse her, or was this just an act of humiliation? Well, the film has a scene where some prostitutes are interrogated about whether they've seen the Joker, and one of them says something along the lines of, "He hasn't been around here, maybe he found another girl." It turns what was never very overt into a strong hint at what the Joker did. As the film heads towards its conclusion, there are even more ham-fisted changes that really destroy some of the comic's interesting imagery. In the comic, Batman finally confronts the Joker by bursting through a mirror. He breaks through the comparison that Joker has spent the past few panels building up. It's a really powerful scene, and yet it's absent in the film. The confrontation now takes place in a replica of Joker's pre-Joker apartment. It's very on the nose and is yet another example of this adaptation showing no regard for subtlety. Perhaps most offensively is the end of the film. The comic's ending is one of the biggest cliffhangers in the franchise's history. Did Batman finally kill the Joker? The comic's ending is incredibly ambiguous. The pair are laughing, the camera begins panning down, Batman grabs the Joker, they're both still laughing, and then they both stop, and it's just the sound of sirens in the background as we stare at the puddle beneath them. It's a powerful ending, and something that's been debated for decades. But the film doesn't seem interested in ambiguity. Instead of both of them going silent at the same time, only Joker stops and Batman keeps on laughing until it finally fades to black. It's a vastly different feeling and seems to deeply imply that Batman killed the Joker. It's directorial decisions like these that really diminish the adaptation's quality, even disregarding the first 30 minutes. I'd love to say, hey, just skip the prologue and you'll have a great adaptation, but I can't. I mentioned the animation earlier, and it's a huge reason why even the most faithful parts of the film fall flat. I've seen a lot of excuses online that have said they were simply going for a Batman animated series look, and while the character designs are very Bruce Timm, and that's pleasantly nostalgic, the rest of the film's art direction could not be further removed. The animated series was so good because it made great use of shadow and had absolutely stunning background art. They made a point to draw on black paper to achieve this in many cases. It helped add texture to the image and create interesting visual direction that was seldom found in cartoons at the time. This movie doesn't have any of that. It doesn't use shadow properly, it's flat, it's lifeless, and does not convey the mood this film desperately needs. On only a few occasions where they're actively mimicking the comic do they do that, but seldom outside of it. Most critically, and it's something they absolutely had to nail, was the character acting. If you can't make these characters emote convincingly on top of what is otherwise excellent voice work, then what makes this better than reading the comic with some voices attached? The character animation is stiff, the fight scenes are badly storyboarded, and the reliance on CG is unpleasant to say the least. I look at In Darkness Dwells, one of the shorts from Gotham Knight, and I can't help but be sorely disappointed at how poorly such an iconic comic was brought to the screen in comparison. I just feel so let down. For such great performances and fantastic source material to be wasted on poor animation and bad writing is incredibly frustrating. But oh well. It is what it is. If you want to hear more reviews, be sure to subscribe and let me know your thoughts on the film in the comments below.